Good morning. We have this tradition that we've been doing for several years now to encourage everybody here to spend less on themselves and more on what we consider to be these Advent initiatives. And we usually have 4 to 5 organizations that we profile during each of the Sundays, beginning this Sunday all the way through Christmas Eve. This year we're doing 4. And so the extra money that you give, and you can do that by just going to the card reader or going online and doing that, all the money you give, which is usually anywhere between $25,000 and $35,000, we split equally between 4 of the organizations. Let me just say what those organizations are, if I can remember them. So today we're gonna profile Reintegra. Next week we're gonna profile Attention Homes, which helps homeless teenagers. The third week is America Kids Belong. It's a foster care and adopt national organization that's doing amazing things. That started right here in Colorado. And then the fourth week, we're profiling an organization called Musalaha. And if you speak Arabic, then you'll know that that means reconciliation. And it's an organization in Israel that does reconciliation between Messianic Jews and Palestinian Christians. There's just as much bad blood between those people as there are through Israelis and Palestinians. So today we have Reintegra, and most of you are familiar with Reintegra, but when a lot of times in Mexico, when girls and boys, but mostly girls, get rescued out of human trafficking, there's a safe house in Mexico City that we've been partnered with that was Camino a Casa, the way or the journey home. And but the trouble with that is that when the girls turn 18, they age out, and most of the time they're just not ready to integrate into society. So Reintegra steps in and helps pay for housing and education and maybe some medical needs and things like that. And we have today Patty Gonzalez visiting with us. She has shared here before, but we brought her in just today to share a little bit of her story. So Patty, tell us just a little bit about, un poquito about your own story with human trafficking.
Okay.
Okay. ¿En inglés?
¿En inglés? Okay.
¿Sí?
No.
Okay. All right.
Okay. Hola a todos. Bueno, mi nombre es Patty.
Hi everyone, my name is Patty.
Okay. Como dice Jean, hace unos años atrás,
As Jean says, a few years ago.
Ay, perdón.
No, it's okay.
Tenía yo 16 años cuando
I was 16 years old when
me enamoré.
I fell in love.
Esta persona abusó de mis sueños, de mis necesidades, de poder sentirme amada.
So this person abused of all of my dreams and the way I want to feel in love, and yeah.
Y es así como caigo en el mundo de la trata de personas.
So that way my life changed with a human traffic with this boyfriend.
Afortunadamente yo fui rescatada por la policía de mi país.
Fortunately, I was rescued from the police officer in my country.
Y bueno, fue la gracia de Dios que me sacó de ese infierno para ponerme en un lugar mejor.
So the grace of God or the mercy of God took me from there and to put me in another place, favor.
Yo llego a Fundación Camino a Casa, que es una casa que ayuda a todas las niñas que son rescatadas para poder continuar con sus vidas.
So then I met Camino a Casa Foundation, and they took me.
¿Sí?
Se me olvidó.
No, o sea, yo llego para que pueda continuar con mi vida.
So they give me the opportunity to stay with my, to live in my life again. Yeah.
Y es ahí donde conozco el programa de Reintegra. ¿Qué significa Reintegra para mí?
So
Bueno.
Then I met Reintegra, and what that means for me is
una oportunidad de poder seguir construyendo mi vida y realizando mis sueños.
So Reintegra for me is the opportunity to follow my dreams and to live my life again.
Ellos llevan cuatro años, creo, ayudándome en las áreas de mi vida, sobre todo poder seguir estudiando.
They were helping me like for kind of 4 years in all the areas in my life, but especially with my study.
Ellos, cada integrante de Reintegra ha sido muy especial en mi vida y en la vida de otras chicas porque han hecho un cambio impresionante en todas nosotras.
So every person from Reintegra, they made a lot of beautiful things around us, with the girls and me, to helping us in all different ways.
Y bueno, yo estoy muy agradecida con ellos porque sin su apoyo yo no sería lo que soy ahora.
So I'm so thankful, grateful about everything they've done for me, because without that I couldn't think of how I couldn't be the person who I am right now here in front of you.
En mayo terminé mi carrera en leyes, soy abogada ahora.
In May, I finished all my degrees in law, so I am a lawyer right now. Lawyer? That's right?
Sí,
Yeah, not a liar, a lawyer. Yeah. Some
Sorry.
people think it's the same thing,
Yeah,
but I
no.
don't think so. Okay.
Anyways, I'm trying to do my best. This is my first time, okay? So mercy.
You're doing great.
Okay. Y bueno, ahora me dedico a hablar sobre el tema de trata de personas y ayudar a todas esas niñas que aún no entienden que no fue su culpa haber pasado por todo esto.
So now I am helping in this institution about to help other girls who having the same issue or same past, and I am the person who tell them that doesn't work the way God wants that for your life, or it's not your fault. I'm trying to encourage these girls in a new way to live their lives.
Trabajo en México con Rosy Orozco, que es una mujer que por muchos años ha trabajado y ha tratado de erradicar este problema, no solo en México, sino en el mundo entero.
So I work in partnership with Rosie, which is the person who helped a lot of girls in my country to help these girls to, stay away from this problem. So, yeah.
Okay. Y bueno, mi sueño es poder ser un instrumento de cambio para muchas mujeres, para que pues ninguna niña, ningún niño viva ese terrible delito que destruye tu vida.
So my dreams is help as much as I can to other girls don't having the same past as I have, and to encourage them to dream again and follow those dreams too. So.
En mi país trabajo, colaboro con diputados y senadores.
So I don't know how can I say that, but she work in the government with the people like Senate.
No sé.
I don't know, with the people with the government who take the decisions and all the rules about this situation. You can understand that, like the scenario. Okay, great.
Okay. Y bueno, para poder juntos hacer leyes que castiguen este delito y poder hacer la diferencia en muchas vidas como Reintegra lo hizo en la mía.
So I'm just working hard for make the, in my country, the lawyers, anyway, the rules about this situation be more hard and more in favor of these girls. As much as I can. I'm working hard for that.
Y bueno, pues agradecer a Reintegra, por supuesto, porque ellos me han ayudado a continuar con mis sueños y me han ayudado a seguir soñando y sobre todo alcanzar cada sueño y cada meta que yo tengo.
So I'm just so thankful about Reintegra for make my dreams come true and to pursue or follow those dreams and make the person who I am right now and and never stop dreaming again.
Amen.
So yeah.
Yes. So, I hope you can see this is a good investment. What you don't get to see is when the girls first come to the safe house, many of them are weak and broken. They stop dreaming, and it takes a lot to get from there to here. You do not want to mess with this woman, all right? If you are a trafficker, watch out. See?
Sí.
Okay. Thank you so much for sharing. All right, so tonight begins the first night of Hanukkah. Christmas is only 22 days away, 22 shopping days away. And besides the obvious spiritual meaning behind those two holidays, unwrapping presents is certainly one of the highlights of this month as well, all right? So one of the things I love about unwrapping presents are the different ways that we go about unwrapping presents. For instance, and I think it's all tied to our personality type. Like I'm on the Myers-Briggs, I'm an ENFP, which means that if it's not about fun, I really don't want much to do with it. And on the other hand, Andrea is an INTJ, which basically means that everything needs a lot of careful deliberation and delicate intentionality. And so when Andrea unwraps a present, she just begins to slowly peel away the Scotch tape, untie the bows, and when she's done, she's got this beautiful piece of paper. Oh, this bow and paper are so pretty, right? That's her. On the other hand, I just prefer to just rip this sucker apart and get to the fun as soon as possible, because the fun is on the inside, right? Nothing but net on that, right? So how Andrew and I unwrap presents defines our marriage to a T. Okay, so since this month includes unwrapping lots of presents, we thought we'd launch a new series that's going to run the entire month of December called Unwrapped, God's Generosity in Every Season. In this series, each Sunday, including Christmas Eve, we're going to look at one special gift each week that God has given us to unwrap that demonstrates his gracious generosity, not just during this season, but in every season of the year. Each of the gifts that we're going to explore during this series are given by God for our enjoyment and our benefit, and today's message is titled Unwrapping Creation. So we're going to jump right in and see how this playground called the universe is intended to be for our pleasure and for our benefit as well. The Bible story starts out in Genesis 1:1, saying, Bereshit bara Elohim et hashamayim ve'et ha'eretz. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. And just before God begins creating, we discover in the next sentence that prior to creation, the earth is formless and empty, and the Spirit of God is hovering over the waters. And I think the best way to kind of picture this scene, this epic historic moment, is to imagine a creative standing in front of, let's say, a blank canvas on an easel, or a piece of yet untouched clay on a potter's wheel, or a camera that is yet to click off its first photo. Whatever untouched art form we can think of, that creative is hovering over something that is still formless and void, and so an infinite number of possibilities lie ahead. They're only limited by the limits of their own imagination. The possibilities are endless. Will they dream big, or will they dream small? Now, that Hebrew word in Genesis 1:1 for bara is actually related to the Hebrew word for healthy, which is bari, because they're both built from the same root. You can hear how they're related. Bara, bari. In ancient Hebrew, the word bari, which is healthy, often referred to a person that we might call obese today, because back in ancient days, and even not more than a couple of generations ago, before the modern era of anorexic supermodels, someone who was plump and ample was valued more by society than someone who is skinny and frail. Even today, we see a 250-pound linebacker take out a quarterback, and we might say something like, whoa, that is one healthy dude. And we say that because in football, plump and ample is a high value for a linebacker. And as God's Spirit then is hovering over this blank canvas, there's no limits to his dreams or his imagination. And God goes big, both in terms of the sheer size of creation, which many scientists today wonder if it actually has an end to it at all, but also in the scope of its complexity and beauty. Evidently, when God dreams, God goes large. And of course, we know from this creation story that God starts by creating light. Duh, that's a no-brainer. Every good artist knows you need good light to work in, right? Okay, you heard that non-scientific explanation here first. Then as the master creative begins to splash medium onto the canvas, gazillions of brilliantly shining stars and colorful planets fill the galaxies. And then we see vast blue oceans filling most of the planet, teeming with the oddest and cutest sea creatures ever imaginable. And the stunning mountains appear, creating breathtaking pastoral scenes. Glorious flowers splattered with every color of the rainbow fill the landscape. Creepy crawly insects swarm the environment. Skies teem with a vast array of exotic birds, and thundering herds of wild animals are now wandering the open spaces. It only takes God 5 short days, that's only 120 hours, to get this far in this massive artistic undertaking, and what an amazing display of a limited imagination God is revealing up until this point. And like any good creative, at the end of each day, God steps back from his work to ponder what he's completed thus far. And each day he says, this is really good stuff. I like the way this is going. It will take God one more day to complete this one-of-a-kind masterpiece. Up until now, everything that God created came straight from his imagination. But on the sixth day, God not only creates mankind from his imagination, he also creates mankind in his own image. No other species in the universe will have this distinct divine feature. And together, both male and female, humans will be the trophy of God's creation, because only they will carry God's limitless imagination within themselves. And humans will need this distinct divine feature because God will give mankind a task that will require a limitless imagination. He ceases from creating on the seventh day, but then hands off the creation baton to us and basically says, let's see what you can do from here. Creation is now ours to unwrap, a gift for our enjoyment and our benefit, and what a gift it is. Hurry up, open it up. What is it? It's pretty big, whatever it is. Oh my God, it's the universe. Okay. If you have run out of ideas, you have someone in your life, you don't know what to give them, I would suggest a universe would be a nice gift to give. I was in Israel last spring, and on the flight home, I watched the first episode of a National Geographic series called Year Million. I won't ask you to raise your hand, because not one hand went up that has ever seen that series. It's awesome. Year Million is actually a common metaphor that's used for whatever it will be like in Earth in the future. And the series is built on the premise that if we can dream it, then we can make it reality. And they make the argument that all the technology we have today didn't exist at one point in history and only exists today because in the past, somebody imagined it. Isn't that true? And so based on that premise and how quickly technology is advancing today, they created this awesome series called Million Years. Here's a 2-minute peek into the future from the first episode that I watched on the plane, which speculated on the impact that artificial intelligence will have on humanity in the not-so-distant future.
It only takes a moment for the unthinkable to become reality. In the near future, tragedy may come with new choices. Imagine you've been in a car crash that's killed your daughter.
Is she okay? Is she okay?
Or has it?
Is she breathing? Is she breathing?
Hey,
Is she okay?
time of death, 9:17. Your daughter's brain was not impacted by the accident. If you wish to scan her brain for digitization and upload, you have approximately 5 minutes.
Do it.
Now imagine the power you wield when you can order a digital copy of your daughter's brain. And do you know what comes next?
Hi, Dad.
One day delivered to your doorstep is an artificially intelligent android that will act, look, emote, just like your daughter. Every memory from birth on will remain intact, but she'll also be a walking computer with access to all the world's knowledge. This is what your world will look like. This is the future of artificial intelligence.
All right. Seem far-fetched? Not really, considering how fast AI has already advanced in such a short time. Think about your cell phone. It was less than 2 centuries ago that the first crude telephone was created. Who could have imagined what it has evolved into today? And it's not really the telephone communication aspect that's so unimaginable. It's the implementation and advancement of artificial intelligence in our devices. Hey Siri, what's the best church in Boulder, Colorado?
Okay, one option is Calvary Bible Church on County Avenue. Do you want that one?
No, that's wrong.
The second is Hope Boulder Foursquare Church on Baseline, 1.5 miles to your north. It's open today from 10:30 a.m. to 1 p.m.
Hey Siri, do you follow the 3 rules of robotics?
Let's see if I can remember. Okay, I think the 3 laws are 1. Clean up your room. 2. Don't run with scissors. And 3. Always wait a half hour after eating before going in the water.
Hey Siri, what do you dream about?
Flying.
Okay. All right, we got a ways to go, but we're getting there. In 1903, the Wright brothers successfully launched their powered aircraft called the Kitty Hawk. It only took 46 summers later before the first commercial jet airline took to the friendly skies. It won't be long now until space travel is just as common in our lives. General Motors announced just last week that they are shuttering several automobile plants so that they can focus on manufacturing driverless cars. Who could have imagined driving a car without a driver? And how long will it take before our cars become airborne as well? Well, welcome to the future, because a company owned by Volvo just started pre-selling flying cars a month ago. It's called the Terra Fugia or Fugia. I don't know if that G is soft or hard. There it is, right there. You can own it. Someday you'll look back and go, oh, that was so crude. Anybody remember the cartoon show The Jetsons? All right, we're not that far away. That thing seemed weird back then. Only a century ago, people died of medical conditions that have simple medical solutions today. I could go on, but the point is, you and I were made in the image of God, and a big part of that image is having a limitless imagination. If we can dream it or if we can imagine it, then it can happen. God finishes creation in 6 days, he ceases creating on the seventh day, and he hands the creation baton off to us. God's intent and hope is that we would create a radically beautiful world that reflects his radically beautiful love for us. He's created an amazing, vast playground for our enjoyment and benefit. And as we unwrap God's creation, will we be selfish bullies on God's playground? Or will we be selfless stewards of this incredible gift? Well, our first parents, Adam and Eve, went the selfish route. And unfortunately, that continued on long after they were booted out of the garden. And many generations later, God's playground became so evil and corrupt that with the exception of Noah, his family, and the animal kingdom, God destroys every living thing in the planet with a flood. A few thousand years later, we're all really in Earth 3.0. That's what we're in right now. And I suppose the fair question to ask is, how has God's playground taken shape since then? How have our dreams and imaginations played out over the centuries? And the answer to that question depends on what dream team happens to be influencing the future. Here's a good principle. Just because we can dream something into creation doesn't mean we always dream good things into creation. God created a world where good and evil compete, where they live side by side with each other. And so we all have the ability to dream about good things, but we also have the ability to dream about evil things. One clear example of this from modern history would be the Holocaust. Adolf Hitler had an incredible imagination. Talk about a dreamer. There are no limits to the creativity that he imagined in exterminating Jews and other people groups that he didn't like. In our world, there's an unlimited potential for both good and evil, and it all comes down to what dream team we decide to be on, the good dream team or the evil dream team. And let me add that if you're on the dream team for good, but you're passive about it, then you're actually helping the dream team for evil by default. Romans 12:21 says that we are not to be overcome by evil. Instead, we are to overcome evil with good. Passivity allows evil to grow. When it comes to shaping the future for good, passivity allows the wrong team to shape the future. One of the primary teachings on this subject it stands out throughout the entire Bible are several parables about what is called the wise steward. Matthew 25, 45, and 46 is just one of those parables. It says this: "Who then is the faithful and wise servant who the master has put in charge of the servants in his household to give them their food at the proper time? It will be good for that servant whose master finds him doing so when he returns." And these parables set up a scenario where the master of a household leaves for a period of time and he puts his servant in charge of the household while he's away. This is exactly what took place when God ceased from creation and said, "Take care of this until I return." Chuck Swindoll is a pretty famous pastor from a generation ago, so some of you may not be familiar with his name. But he tells a story in one of his books about the first time that his daughter went out on a date. He wanted to make sure that the boy that was taking her out had good intentions. And so when the young man arrives to pick her up, Chuck takes the keys out of his pocket and dangles the keys to what is a classic collector's car in front of this young man and says, "I want you to take my car out on your date with my daughter tonight." Now, I've put a lot of blood, sweat, and tears into taking care of this beauty for a long time. There's no dents or imperfections anywhere in its frame, no stains on the carpet, no rips in the car upholstery. Needless to say, my car means everything to me. I love my car more than life itself. And so I want you to enjoy the evening with my car, have a great time at the drive-in movie theater, eat some popcorn and candy. But I want you to know I would be very upset if my car came back damaged in any way. And so make sure you bring it back exactly the way you are leaving with it. Am I making myself perfectly clear? Okay, dads, you should do that. God not only handed the keys to the universe over to us, and he said, steward this until I return, but he also commissioned us to continue on in its creation. It'd be kind of like Leonardo da Vinci handing over his painting of the Last Supper to us and saying, see what you can do from here. Well, let's see. Let's turn these Middle Eastern Jewish guys into European Gentiles, and let's put some bread on the table instead of that tasteless, unleavened stuff. You heard that story here first, too, by the way. And that's what we ended up with. We have. God created a universe for us to enjoy and benefit from. And when he finished, he said, let's see what you can do from here. One day, God will return. He put a lot of blood, sweat, and tears into his creation. He loves his creation. Will he find us unwrapping his gift to be used for good? Or will he find us unwrapping his gift to be used for evil? Or worse than either of those two options, will he find us passive about it? I have this picture up on my wall on my Facebook, if we can get to that. There it is. And I've had this title, Human Flourishing Activist, up there for about a couple years now. But I recently added this, Never Stop Dreaming. And, honestly, it's just been kind of a long journey for me to realize, first of all, who I am. And second of all, as I get older, I don't want to fall prey to the mindset that as you get older, you become irrelevant, and you just kind of slowly fade away. Maybe get a wood shop or something like that and just wait till your last breath. That's not me. I want to stay in the game as long as I can, hopefully to my last breath. And I want to be able to say at my last breath that I'm leaving this world a little bit better than it was. In whatever small or large capacity God has me in, I want to make a difference. And I hope you do too. It's why Andrew and I have kind of labeled what we do right now, Bold Journey. I do it mostly through things like my book and the opportunities I have to speak. She does it a lot through her art. One thing maybe you picked up from Patty sharing is that a lot of times when girls are trafficked, particularly if they're trafficked for a significant period of time, and this is true for anybody who's had a lot of trauma, is a primary symptom of that experience is they stop dreaming. They just become survivors day to day. Just get me through this day. Get me through this next hour. You can imagine the horror of what it's like to be sold maybe 40 times a day. You're not thinking about changing the world. You're just thinking about psychologically just getting through to the end of the day, sane. One of the signs as they go into the safe house that they're progressing is that they start dreaming again. Patty's a great example of that. The other girls that we bring and we have share here from Reintegra, they're all dreamers. They have big dreams. That's not how they looked when they first went into the safe house. It's not how they thought. The worship team can come up. We're gonna end with a song, and this is some of the lyrics. One of the verses says, "All the earth, could all that is lost ever be found? Could a garden come up from the ground at all? You, God, make beautiful things. You make beautiful things out of the dust. You make beautiful things. You make beautiful things out of us. And he's talking about how that out of dirt, out of ashes, God can make beauty. And Andrew was actually inspired from this song. If we can show these two paintings. So the one on my right is Wonder. You've seen her up here before. I shared in our family, unfortunately, the women, particularly through Andrea's line, most of those women have been victims of abuse. And Andrea herself was a victim of abuse. And this is a picture. Wonder is coming up out of the ashes. And there's like chaos below her. But she's coming up and she's looking to God. And it's called Wonder because may I never lose my wonder, you know? I mean, wonder is another thing that goes away. You stop having this awe. The one on the left is called It All Started in a Garden, was inspired by this song that we're going to sing. That you get beautiful things out of the dust. So if you know my wife, Andrea, she paints, she waits for the Holy Spirit to tell her. She gets inspired a lot from the messages that we do up here, Brian and myself and Aaron and the others, and then kind of through the Holy Spirit, she starts painting. And so I showed you those because I know my flock, and I know that there's a lot of us who have stopped dreaming for a lot of different reasons. And maybe you've experienced trauma, and you're still healing from it. Maybe you came from another faith community where you didn't have a good experience, and you're just sitting in a seat, waiting to thaw out. There's a lot of reasons why we stop dreaming. But as we sing this next song, I'm asking you to ask God, if you're in that boat, that God would heal you and restore your dreams again. And I want to take it a step further. I want you to know that you can dream big. That your dreams could be limitless. And they should be. We have a big, big God. We are made in His image. He made us out of His imagination. And then He put His image, these words are related, right? Into us. And as individuals, we should be the ones who have a seat at the table of shaping the future. And so for everybody in here, what are you dreaming about for the future? Can you see yourself as somebody who can influence the shape of the future? And I'm talking about in matters of social justice, in matters of art, in matters of business and technology. This is our task that God has given us. He wants us to be on the good dream team. Do not be overcome by evil. Instead, overcome evil by good. Let's pray. Lord, heal us, touch us. Heal our disappointments, whatever it is that keeps us from dreaming big and going big. I pray you ignite that in us. We know, we've heard stories of people that do incredible things. And we think, well, that's somebody else. That's not me. It is us. They just had the courage to get out there and do something. Maybe they failed 5 times, but they got up and continued again. Make us like that, Lord. Make us like that. Amen. Let's stand up.